But no.
But no.
But no.
But no.
Hey, that's pretty good. That's all right.
Anything else?
I guess that about covers it, really.
Gee, I just hope I can remember all that.
Yeah, I do too.
It's a nice dressing room you got here. I'm dead on my feet. You got a couch? You look like you're dead on your feet, too.
No, I'm not. I'm live from New York. It's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week on the early years of SNL, we're talking about Season 4, Episode 16, with host Richard Benjamin and musical guest Rickie Lee Jones. This show originally aired on April 7th, 1979. Brad, this show has everything. It has cameos. It has long sketches. It has missing stars. It's got everything for everyone.
Well, yeah. How could you not be a fan?
I know no bigger fan than our guest tonight. We are joined once again, luckily, happily, by the host of Ian Talks Comedy, Ian Fermaglich. Ian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for having me on this episode, because this is one of my top 3 episodes of Saturday Night Live of all time.
Nice.
Brad and I were talking about this earlier today before we started recording. My recollection was you loved this episode because of Rickie Lee Jones.
No.
Ian,
Told you.
it's yes and.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and. Yes. Rickie Lee Jones. Actually, I learned who Rickie Lee Jones is because of this episode.
We all did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes 3 of us.
It's one of those clamshell episodes that you referred to. And so this was one of the first ones I ever rented from Blockbuster Video.
Nice.
Nice.
So excited to have you back in. One of the original friends of the pod, we must say, back with us for the first time for real since season 1. So welcome back. And I, for one, am excited because I've done no research. So take it away.
Really? Wait, Ian, you haven't been on this podcast since season 1?
Not a proper episode.
Well, yes. I did the Mardi Gras special in season 2.
Oh, okay.
And this guy, Bill Swirsky, has a show on your network.
Yeah. Hard to pin that guy down, but luckily we
Yeah.
have Thomas Senna jump in and deal with that.
He's not even here and he's getting plugged. Can we get on with Richard Benjamin,
Interesting. Bill
please?
Swirsky, the character of Bill Swirsky, didn't even come on as one of the top 16 characters on Bill Swirsky's countdown.
People didn't vote for him.
point.
Yeah. Tri-Delts made it.
Yeah, I don't get that.
So, Ian,
Bring it in, baby. Bring it in.
you did mention that, this is one of your favorite episodes. You talked to us earlier and said, can I do this episode with you guys? Why? What about this episode makes you want to talk to us about it?
Okay, so it's got my favorite nerd sketch on it.
Okay.
And it is hysterical, and it's, Gilder's fine physical acting. It's got the long sketch in the middle, which I think is a tour de force. I was one of those people who used to take the tape recorders up to the TV, and I memorized that entire sketch.
The entire sketch?
Yes, I'm not going to quote it all.
Why not?
But there'll be.
Because the original draft was 25 pages. That's
I know.
why not. We don't.
But can we drop that as an extra episode later this week? It's just you.
Playing all 12 parts.
Yeah, I mean, I think every writer was in that sketch except for Herb Sargent.
So it's really that sketch. I mean, there aren't a lot of sketches, but those 2 sketches. Are you a Richard Benjamin fan?
And I'm a Richard Benjamin fan. Yes.
Are you really?
I didn't know who he was, honestly, when I was a little kid and I first saw the episode.
Right.
Okay.
But I sought him out afterwards and he was basically like every Jew, like every man in the 60s. You had your Dustin Hoffman, you had your Charles Grodin, and in the middle, you had Richard Benjamin.
Okay.
In the middle?
I mean, in the span of attractiveness, I guess.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
Oh,
Okay.
it was attractiveness. Oh, okay.
Oh, you mean Jewiness?
Well, I have no idea. You're the one that set this scale. I'm trying to figure it out.
We're playing catch up.
What scale is Charles Grodin on one side and Dustin Hoffman the other? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Funny?
Nose size. I mean, Dustin Hoffman has got a big honker, but women seem to like him. Richard Benjamin has a smaller nose, and Charles Grodin has the smallest of the three.
Okay, so aside from nose size, what else about Richard Benjamin's career? Because look, I don't know much about Richard Benjamin, but from what I've read, the work of Richard Benjamin that I know really comes later in his life when he's directing more.
Yeah. Gary's a big fan of films like My Stepmother is an Alien or Milk Money or Made in America. That's really Gary's bread and butter, those kind of cinematic masterpieces.
That's right.
I actually like Milk Money, and I had my 11th birthday party was Dan Aykroyd and John Lovitz and Kim Basinger classic My Stepmother is an Alien.
Wait, is Lovitz in that? I forgot Lovitz was in that.
Yes, he plays his brother.
Come on, man.
I forgot that.
Call yourself a Lovitz fan.
I actually emailed Richard Benjamin to get him to come on, and he said, no, thank you. But anyway.
Well, that was very nice that he responded.
Yeah, it was.
I should tell him I have a framed, this is not a lie, I have a framed poster of the Money Pit that was given to me as a gift like 6 years ago. The original one sheet of the Money Pit.
That's true.
Cool.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Wait, is it at your house?
I believe it is.
I believe it's in your house, in your basement.
It's in the attic.
He went to Northwestern. He met his wife of 64 years, full apprentice. And then he basically played Philip Roth in every movie that was based on the Philip Roth novel. Goodbye Columbus, Portnoy's Complaint. He was starred in Catch-22. He just did The Sunshine Boys, where he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, that was a few years ago, right? Yeah.
A few years before that. He did Quark, which was a sitcom, and it was basically Mel Brooks, Buck Henry.
Yeah, created by Buck Henry.
Version of Star Wars. And then that weekend, he had the #1 film in America with Love at First Bite, which nobody thought would be a hit at all. He plays Van Helsing and the very tan Mr. Hamilton plays Dracula, and Susan St. James is the woman in the middle. And he's just about to start his directorial debut, How to Beat the High Cost of Living, which starred How Great is Jane Curtin and co-starred Garrett Morris.
Oh.
So that's why he comes back a year later, almost to the day to host with his wife.
And it's funny you mentioned Buck, the show he did, Quirk, created by Buck Henry. I don't know, watching this episode, got a lot of Buck Henry vibes.
Yes.
From Richard Benjamin this episode. Very Buck-esque.
His delivery, especially, was very, very much influenced by Buck.
I agree. Yeah.
I agree. And he was dating Paul Simon at the time.
So he checks all the boxes for a late season 4 host.
Exactly.
Oh, Ian, thank you for doing all of that research on Richard Benjamin. That was great. I'm sure there's more, but let's save it for the Rickie Lee Jones performances.
Yeah, we need something to talk about.
Should we just get into it now?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right. So the episode this week starts in the locker room.
Can we, right off the bat, can I ask, why is this a new locker room? Well, they just had a sketch 2 episodes ago, and it's a completely different set for the locker room. Now there's a time card puncher in there.
I love that. I love Dan comes in and he punches his time card. He's obviously running late for the show. He comes
full
with his
motorcycle get up.
helmet.
Yeah, it was great.
He starts talking to Jane, and then this guy comes in coveralls.
Yes, his name is Marvin Goldhar.
Yes, Canadian actor.
Yeah.
Cast member of the Hart and Lorne Terrific Hour.
Hey, there you go.
So I think Lorne might have written this with Rosie or by himself.
Oh, interesting. So Marvin Goldhar comes on, and he is he's here from the NBC utility pool to fill in for John Belushi, who's missing this week. And it really starts with Dan talking to Jane about John not being there.
About John being stuck in LA, yeah.
Yeah, and Jane takes a couple shots about John. Is he doing 8 to 10 for possession? He says, no, he has an ear infection. He said, and then she says, I hope he didn't get it listening to himself sing. So she's just
That's a great
taking
line.
shots at John right away. Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought you'd like this opening. One of my first notes is Gary must be loving this.
Oh, I did enjoy it. At 1, it's Jane, and 2, she's taking shots at John. So there you go. That's all I needed.
And it's a true story. He did have an ear infection.
He did. And he was Brad. He was filming 1941 at this point, right?
Yeah. So he's still flying back and forth to LA doing 1941. And he was sick and did have an ear infection, and a doctor told him he couldn't fly. He wasn't allowed to fly. But no, he wrote a telegram on Wednesday, basically addressing it to the cast and crew of Saturday Night Live and some of the writers. I'm sorry I can't make it, et cetera, et cetera. And he closed it with, I miss almost all of you. So, Lauren is obviously pissed and upset with John. John actually legitimately thought he was going to get fired for not coming back for the episode. So he came up with this idea, and he asked Spielberg and John Landis to help him. He was going to film like a sketch or a short film, like something that he thought might make amends for him not being there and be on the show to try to, placate Lauren so he wouldn't get fired. And so he made this video, and like I said, Daniel talks about it in his book, where he's at a pool. It's actually Steven Spielberg's pool. John Landis directed this, and they start close on him, and he's talking about how he can't be there. He's so sad. And as it pulls back, he's, I think, eating sushi, and there's about like 10 or 12, scantily clad women around him. And I guess when the tape got back to Lauren, it was, whether meant or not, basically took it as an FU, and it was like, we don't have time for it. Sorry. And never aired the short. I think there's parts of it are on that Belushi documentary that came out a few years ago. They actually,
Yes.
they have it there, right? Yeah. Finally, first time I think I ever saw it was when that came out.
So then the rest of the cold open is Dan talking to the NBC utility player. He's talking about how is he going to fill in for Belushi because Belushi's a star. He pulls the bee costume out of the locker. Marvin does, which was funny.
It was a nice bee joke. He's like, still doing the bees, huh?
Yeah. And then it's just Dan, trying to get him to do samurai and the eyebrow thing, as Dan says. And then Dan does Live from New York. I thought it was a decent cold open.
It was fun. I think so. I think it's a lot funnier now and more biting now than people thought or realized at the time, because I think it is very much an attack on John. They're making fun of John not being there. And now looking back on all you've read and realized, I think it legitimately, I think Ian's point, written by Lauren or whoever, but it's like, it's like an FU to John.
Yeah, it's why I always thought it was funny. And it also makes the late night talent, they feel like they have a bunch of time clock. They're easily replaceable.
Right.
So it's got that vibe going to it as well.
And the fact that the utility man played by Marvin comes in coveralls with an NBC logo on it,
And he's really good. His samurai impression's pretty good. I think this guy also did a lot of voiceover work in his career, but he actually was funny trying to do John.
It was a good start. A good start to the show,
totally.
in my opinion.
And during the credits, John Belushi, absent.
Yeah, they make note of that. I wasn't sure if they would even include him, but they did.
I was wondering, yeah.
And I figured it was a contract thing. But I guess my question was, before we go too far into this, how aware do you think the audience watching at home was of this before seeing the cold open?
Of what?
Not.
And then did they think it was a joke? Did they think it was, I don't know. I was curious about that watching it.
I would think not at all.
What were you asking? Aware of what? Of just John not being there, or all the drama backstory behind it?
No, of John not being there for the show this week. Because I believe you set it up last week, Brad, as John is the star.
Yeah.
Was your argument.
Yeah.
And now people are tuning in and he's not there. But they don't know that, right? So they watch this and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what's going on? And is this a bit? Is this a thing? I don't know. I was just...
It's also interesting, too, because there are episodes this season where he is, quote unquote, there. Right. And he's not really there. So, they make such a point to point out that he's not there, where there's other episodes where he does 1.5 sketches when he's there.
Right.
Plus, there was that episode where Gilda said that she wasn't going to be in that much of the show, and she turned out to be in pretty much the show.
Right. So that's a bit. And then you wonder, just watching this live in 1979, that's all. It's a totally
right.
different, right? There's no there's no internet, there's whatever.
Yeah, you're probably like, oh, John's not here. What's going on? What's happening? Will he show up? Maybe he won't show up. We don't know. Is it really a joke or not? Because you don't know. And they've been playing, they play games all the time with the cast and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Which makes it even better, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting way to break that news, to work that into the, again, real life, what's going on behind the scenes. He's not there. So now you're bringing that up on the show. Anyway, after the opening credits, we get our monologue. Richard Benjamin comes on and he is excited.
The crowd is excited.
The crowd. This was a good crowd tonight.
They seem to really like him. He got a huge ovation.
Yeah.
The likable presence.
He's one of Ian's favorite actors of the 20th century.
It's true.
I enjoy his work.
Yeah. No, that's good. So he comes on and then he's talking about how much fun he had this week and then he tells us this story, which started with everyone gets into a limo and then quickly goes to he and one other person are doing all of these fun things.
As we've mentioned, there's a lot of long sketches, and I'm wondering if this monologue was longer, because you're right. It does go from a story about a group of people in a limo to him and one woman very quickly.
It almost felt like they skipped over a cue card. Honestly,
like 3 cue cards. Yeah, that's what I mean. They just cut, go.
Yeah. And then the whole gist is that he has developed a romantic relationship with Gilda, and he's telling his wife now, Paula, live on TV. And then Gilda comes on and she's upset that he said anything. And he's like, say hi to Paula. And she angrily turns to the camera and says, hi, Paula. Yeah, that was our monologue this week. Ian, did you like it?
Like the monologue. Since I've heard it so many times, I can do the rhythms. But forget it. I've had the greatest time anywhere. But it's kind of like the Elliot Gould monologue in the first season that he slept with Gilda.
Yes, exactly.
So it's kind of repeating. Makes Gilda look like she's down for the hosts,
right?
But it was a funny monologue. It was quick.
Yeah, it was.
It was relatively quick. Yeah,
kind of. Again, felt kind of abrupt, a little abrupt, but there's so much. There's so much this episode.
Well, from the monologue, we get one of the longest sketches of all time. It is a very of the time sketch. There's a lot going on that's relative to early 1979. It is the Pepsi Syndrome, which is a takeoff of the film The China Syndrome, which just came out recently in the last few months, I think, right? Somewhere in there.
Well, both these things came out in between the last episode and this one. The China Syndrome came out about, a month earlier on March 16th, and 12 days after that was the 3 Mile Island incident. So both those things happened in the span of the last episode and this one.
And so, like you were saying, it's a takeoff of the 3 Mile Island incident. We happen to be at 2 Mile Island, is just where this happens. And there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. Oh, my God.
There's so much.
I really enjoyed the interactions in the beginning with Bill and Brian, and he spills the cola. He's like, well, what if it was 7-Up? He's like, it's harmless. It's an uncola.
Which is a 70s reference.
The 70s tagline.
Yeah. Pepsi Syndrome, but you spilled a Coke. It doesn't matter. Any cola does it. RC Cola, any cola.
I could have had a V8.
It's so silly and absurd, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh, Bill, he's trying to mop it up with anybody have a napkin? He gives him Kleenexes. No, Kleenexes won't do. What do you got? Come on.
And Brian McConaughey is the third guy. I like the thing in the back, the people in the back that don't move through the entire sketch.
Yeah.
Oh, the blue screen of people working.
They should be sitting at their desks and doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it goes all over the place. We go to a news conference, which is where Richard Benjamin comes on, and he's the press person for 2 Mile Island, I guess. They put on the 2 Mile Island players come out. It's Franken and Davis. They're two mimes that are pro-nuclear power.
Originally, it was 3. I mean, this sketch was... did you time this? How long was this? Did you actually time it?
I didn't. No.
I have seen it on like those Star Maker tapes that they made in the 90s.
Yeah.
At 17 minutes, 39 seconds.
Okay. Because the original script I was able to read is 25 pages. It's huge. There's 3 mimes and beats. Played a mime with Franken and Davis. And it ends with kind of like a Godzilla type battle between Jimmy Carter and the maid outside the Capitol. And like Jane has an anecdote and she's trying to like give him an anecdote. It's like there's so much. The sketch is already long. Just imagine the original version was 25 pages, which is basically a 25-minute sketch.
Remarkable. I mean, could you imagine if they went with something like that? I mean, this is 17 minutes is
even that. Yeah, even
enough.
17. Yeah. I'm sorry, and we're talking script. We should say it's Franken and Davis and Jim Downey are the guys behind this one. There's just so much, like you said, Gary. There's so much in here.
There's so much,
and I'm sure Davey Wilson would have loved to do all 25 minutes.
Oh my God!
It's a parody of another movie too, besides
the China Syndrome.
Besides the China Syndrome,
what's the other one?
It's a parody of the science fiction, not classic, The Amazing Colossal Man.
Oh, because it's funny. The original when they originally wrote this, they were calling it the Amazing Colossal President, which I think is still in there. Doesn't Jane call him that when after the accident
Yes.
she tells him, yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, because Jimmy Carter comes back and goes in because he's what was he in real life? A nuclear
engineer on a submarine during World War II.
Yeah.
So he goes in. There's so many like small subtle lines too about like they don't want him to go in. He's like, okay, I have my little yellow boots on. He puts his feet up. He's got those like rain slickers on. He goes in.
Yeah. There's so much. We get an unannounced cameo from Rodney Dangerfield.
Mrs. Carter, your husband was exposed to massive doses of radiation. Now, this has affected the entire cell structure of his body and greatly accelerated the growth process.
Well, what does that mean?
It means, Mrs. Carter, your husband, President Carter, has become the amazing colossal president.
Well, how big is he?
Well, Mrs. Carter, it's difficult to comprehend just how big he is, but to give you some idea, we've asked comedian Rodney Dangerfield to come along today to help explain it to you. Rodney?
How do you do? How are you? Good to see you, Rodney. Rodney, can you please tell us, how big is the president?
Oh, he's a big guy, I'll tell you that. He's a big guy. Oh. I'll tell you, he's so big, I saw him sitting in the George Washington Bridge dangling his feet in the water. Oh, he's big, I'll tell you that, boy. Well, two girls make love to him at the same time and never meet each other. I don't want to upset you, lady. He's big, you know what I mean? Well, he could have an affair with the Lincoln Tunnel. I mean,
Yeah, the Rodney Dangerfield cameo is amazing. Like, I was trying to think, they haven't done this before, really. Unannounced stunt cameo. Maybe I could think of Gary was, Art Garfunkel.
Yeah.
At the Charles Grodin episode with him and Simon.
Oh, right.
And maybe Jerry Rubin in season 1.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't in the middle of a sketch.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
But this is kind of like the very first quote unquote stunt cameo, or second behind Garfunkel, maybe.
He's a big guy, I tell you, a big guy. Well, two women can make love to him at the same time and never meet each other. They can have an affair with the Lincoln Tunnel. He's big, lady, big guy. Sorry.
It was...
Do not be sorry.
It was funny, and he left, and I'm like, what in the hell was that? Like to your point, Gary, this sketch has everything. It's like Dangerfield comes in, does like a 30-second bit, and then leaves. I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And the crowd went wild.
Of course.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say, was like, this was a huge cameo at the time. Like, Rodney was big. The crowd loved it and ate it up like they did much of tonight. But yeah, this was, we did get Garrett in drag, unfortunately.
Yeah.
To clean up the mess. And so the nuclear waste that makes the president 90 feet tall also happens to make Garrett in drag 90 feet tall.
Which you'll love the script, Gary. It does say, enter Garrett in drag as a... I was like, okay.
Remarkable. Poor Garrett.
And it was right about this time, I'm like, how are they going to bring Gilda into this? And sure enough, there's Baba Wawa.
Yeah, just shoehorn that in there too.
And they needed... they didn't have to have Garrett in drag, but they needed somebody else to be affected if the ending would be like the movie The Amazing Colossal Man. So the army makes another guy amazing colossal, so they would kill each other.
Oh, and that's why
why not do something like that?
What?
With Garrett?
Like make him a general or something?
Anwar Sadat, and they made him...
No, I was like, even make him a janitor. Like, why does he have to be in drag? We don't have to overthink this.
Right.
Just
just make him a janitor. It's a very good point. It's a
make
very
him a janitor,
good point.
and then at the end, like, he's power hungry and Jimmy Carter's going to stop him. I don't know.
Especially when the original ending was not them getting together. But that's what I'm saying. Especially when the original ending was not them getting together, but actually fighting each other. Then have him be a janitor. You make a good point, sir.
Thank you.
But there is that part where they come back to the final scene, because there's many scenes, I guess, in this sketch, and Dan's outside the window talking as the huge president, and he goes how he wants to introduce my future wife, the next first lady, and I did write down as my note, don't be Garrett, don't be Garrett, don't be Garrett. Ah, shit.
Yeah.
There is one line that I love because it's just so silly. It's right before Carter appears at the window, Jim Downey asks Richard Benjamin, well, the Constitution does not specifically preclude giants and behemoths from the presidency. Don't you think President Carter's size some way, and then he shows up? I just think that's the silliest line. It's just really funny.
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, for a 17-minute sketch that does go all over the place, it at least was interesting. And it did have a lot of funny parts, because I think a lot of times these long sketches, drag on and there's just like holes where it's not funny. But this one I felt kept your attention and kept you interested in what was going on because there were funny parts.
It's an epic sketch. Yes. To everything you're saying, like every scene did something. It pushed the story further. They're in the control room. They go to the briefing back. Like everything made sense. And it was like it's like a short film. It's just an epic sketch.
And Marvin Goldhar played one of the reporters.
Yes, he did.
Did he? I missed that.
I saw that.
Oh my God. So good.
It is. And just the fact that they put this sketch together. You said it was Downey, Franken, and Davis, right?
Yeah. And like I said, the first draft was like 25 pages. Had a lot. A lot of it's there. Just a lot of little things taken out, some dialogue out here and there. Other than the big things were the ending that changed, and this bit with Jane, when they go talk to Jane, she had like animals in a cage because she was like practicing the anecdote. They were going to try to give it to Carter during the fight, but
was this written before they knew John wasn't going to be there, or was there a John part in it?
I don't think there was a John part in it.
Okay.
Was Rodney Dangerfield written into this originally?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the earliest dated script I saw was the 4th, which would have been Wednesday. So, but we said they'd been off for so long. I'm sure once 3 Mile Island happened, they started thinking about how do we rope this in and make something about this? How could you not?
Yeah.
And this is all the stuff Jason Morris sent us from the Davis archives.
For it being so timely and so long, a lot of these long sketches too, we've seen like O'Donoghue would write like the Star Trek one that was not relevant to anything going on in the moment. So he had time to like write those and make it work over the 12 minutes or whatever that one was. This all just happened. And so they had to put it all together. And to your point, if there's no John part in it, that was written recently.
Yeah. Or, there was nothing, I think, specific, John. Even when you look at the final version, there's nothing specific, John.
Ian, before we move on from this sketch, because it is one of your favorites of all time, is there anything else you want to talk about that we glossed over here?
Mimes aren't supposed to talk.
That's great. That is right.
Oh, that was so funny.
It's very important.
I just like how Franken's like, see, I told you.
Yeah.
No, mimes can talk. And then David's like, no, mimes can talk.
Oh, that was a good bit.
Everything's working in the sketch. Even Franken and Davis are knocking it out of the park.
Well, from there, we go to Milt's apartment. Milt is Richard Benjamin, who played by Richard Benjamin, who is Todd's brother. So we get Todd coming over, and he gives his brother a can of Billy beer.
A full can.
A full can.
The only beer collection of full beers.
Yes. So, yeah. So Todd's going over to his brother's apartment. He is having Lisa meet him there so that they can have this is not known to Lisa at the time, but so that they can have some alone romantic time is what Todd's setting up here.
In a way, in 2025, that would not be considered proper.
Oh, a lot of this sketch would not be considered proper in 2025, Ian. That is true. So, yeah, the fact that Milt is letting these two high school kids use his apartment and he just skedaddles.
How old is Milt, by the way?
He's old enough to be divorced. But that doesn't mean
that's
anything.
right.
He could be 24, and whatever, Todd's 17. So, yeah, except, this is... I know you like Richard Benjamin, Ian, but in this sketch, he kind of drove me crazy with what
I was going to say this. I like Richard Benjamin, but in this sketch, he's way over the top.
Good. Thank you. Glad we're on the same page.
Take the scenery out of your mouth. You don't have to chew it that much.
Yeah. He's trying to emulate Bill Murray's Todd character, and it's just, it's not hitting.
Right.
So then Lisa finally comes over. Milt sees his way out, and and then it's Bill and Gilda on the couch, just a different setting. He pours her a sparkling rosé, and she starts to drink it, and then this is really funny. He's like forcing her to drink it, and literally drink it, and Gilda just kind of loses it at this point. Like, she starts laughing.
She's genuinely breaking in this sketch when he like just forces the rosé down her throat and then is like sniffing the back of her head or whatever. She just loses her shit.
Yeah, I don't know how she breathed during that sketch.
Yeah, this has some classic lines from Todd and Lisa.
All-time classic.
It was in the 15th anniversary of this clip.
Okay, Todd, what was so important that you had to talk to me about?
First, let me toast your poker tube.
My what?
Here, just drink this, okay? Skål.
Ah, it tastes good. What is it?
It's Mateus Sparkling Rosé. I think you'll agree it's an amusing little wine, my petite choo-choo.
Todd, are you okay?
I'm not sick, but I am hot for you.
Don't sit so close to me.
What is that bewitching scent you're wearing?
Vicks Vapor Rub.
What I found really impressive was they finally kiss. And while they're kissing, Bill takes all of the cushions off of the sofa while he's still kissing her.
So funny.
She's dead weight.
She basically is dead weight. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the two of them were so good in that moment, I thought.
Yeah.
Of making that work. And then Mrs. Lupner shows up.
Yeah.
And did you hear the audience when she walked in? Oh, like a sitcom.
It was.
I do like the, and I was going to give you on your 18th birthday, her recipe for egg salad with the mayonnaise. And then Bill goes, it didn't get close to the mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Which is a nice little slip past the censors.
Right. I thought it was a fun sketch. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Very good. Long, but
my
good.
favorite nerd sketch. And it is long.
It is long. I mean, they're keeping in the theme of this episode. It is long, but as we talked about before, Gary, I love how they're still building on these characters. Like you said, I think the audience is waiting for Todd and Lisa to finally, literally get together. So the fact that they finally kiss was just another level of building on these characters, and they do it in such a funny way. I think the intro, to your point, guys, of Richard Benjamin's acting, a little long to get there. You needed some sort of a setup. I get it, but it was a bit of a long setup. But once you got Bill and Gilda together, it's classic. This is some of the best stuff we've seen the two of them do. I mean, they literally stopped the sketch so the audience could just laugh out loud at Gilda losing it. Like, it just stopped for about 10 seconds of just everybody, including the cast, laughing. And then they go right into that sofa bed routine, which was just hilarious. And you're talking stuff that wouldn't pass today, Gary. I thought that him forcing her to drink was hilarious. I was just like, it's just so funny. He's like, here you go. He like pours
humor,
tilts the glass up more and more.
Yeah.
It's the physical humor you're laughing at, not the forced drinking.
Yeah, right. It was funny. Then on the way out the door at the very end, Bill grabs Gilda's ass.
Yeah. This is the best I think we've seen the two of them play against each other. So good.
Yeah. And
must have been
Rosie,
a good week for the two of them.
I was just going to say, Rosie said you could see their how the real life dynamics were working on screen. And this was really good. They were very good together. Well, we're about 45 minutes into the show, so it's time for Weekend Update.
No time for a musical guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, hold on.
If only.
We'll get there. Once again, no sponsor. That always disappoints me, just because we've seen some good ones this year. Yeah, there's some jokes about Iron Curtain, Lead Curtain, going back to the 3 Mile Island thing that had just happened. And then we get a pre-tape because Chico Escuela is trying to make a comeback for the New York Mets. So Bill goes down, and there's a film shot at spring training, the Mets spring training camp.
Yes, and Alan Zweibel, friend of my pod, I think yours as well.
Not yet, but thanks for pointing that out.
We discussed this and he loved it. He, Brian Doyle Murray, and Garrett Morris went to spring training because it's a 3-part sketch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And they go to spring training. They have everything written, and they have to go to each Met and see who can handle the jokes the best, and because Ed Kranepool did a really funny job in that sketch.
Yeah, he was good.
If you want to go into why everyone was mad at Chico and not rooting for him to make his comeback.
It's because he wrote the book Bad Stuff About the Mets.
That was great. That's a reference, right? What was that book that came out? What was it?
Ball 4.
Ball 4. Jim Bouton?
Yep.
Yeah.
Jim Bouton.
Yeah. So that was fun to see they play off of that.
Very, very, very big card player. Borrowed Chico's soap, never give it back.
He's 41 years old trying to make a comeback.
And a couple other things. The other players, the guy Nelson Bryles never even made the team at spring training, but he does get to be in that sketch.
There you go.
Steve Henderson did a funny job. As far as I'm concerned, Chico could just pack his bag now.
Yeah, that was good.
He did a good job with his line reading. And they actually shot Banshee, the Mourner's companion, from next season, right during that time, because he strikes up a friendship. Alan Zweibel strikes up a friendship with one of the Mets, Joel Youngblood, an outfielder. And they use him in that sketch and a couple of other taped pieces they do in spring training. And, was one of the worst years in Mets history that year.
I thought it was fun. And like you said, Ian, this is part 1 of 3. So we get it a couple more times. But this was a good start. It was a lot of fun. It was good to see all of that, on location stuff that Bill does. Then we go back to the desk and Bill thanks himself for doing a good job.
Yeah.
And then we get Bill again giving James something she left behind. This time it's stockings. But she left them in Chico's apartment this time.
I knew you'd like this.
Brad doesn't like these, Ian.
I like this one. This was the
one
I
you liked.
This is the one I liked the best. I don't know why, but I did kind of like this one.
That's funny.
I don't know. I don't have a good reason why.
Yeah, at least it's not the chieftains finding them.
I thought they had a good Belushi joke where they said he was out with the Connecticut governor. Grasso. It's pretty.
We get Bill's Oscar predictions for the year. Supporting actor, who cares?
Geraldine Page, I don't have a joke. I don't know about it. He disqualifies everybody on the show. It was good. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, they're continuing with the long theme of the night. This feels like a long weekend update, and we're not even done.
No, because we get Roseanne Rosannadanna next.
It's like, holy shit. And a Roseanne Rosannadanna?
And not like a quick Roseanne Rosannadanna either. This was a long one.
Yeah.
We can say that about pretty much everything this week.
I think so. Yeah.
But the long stuff worked, I thought.
I think so, especially up to this point, I would say. And even this update was good because you kind of get 3 pieces with the Chico thing, Celebrity Corner, and now Roseanne Rosannadanna. So it's like you get, again, this is a little long. She does the poem at the end that her grandma wrote. And that was like, okay, that was.
Right. They filled a lot of time.
They did. Professor Farter. Hey, still landing the Jersey jokes. She's like, you got a great vocabulary for somebody from New Jersey.
Yeah. Everybody loves the Jersey jokes.
They do. I don't know. They are probably my fun. They've become my most enjoyable thing about Roseanne Rosannadanna is the Jersey jokes now. I don't know why.
And Alan Zoibella said, it's because a guy from Jersey was banging my sister. Richard Federer is his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Ian, the time has come. After Weekend Update, your girl, Rickie Lee Jones, comes out.
Yes.
And sings her hit single, Chucky's in Love.
Is it a hit at this point?
Yet.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
not yet. She had just released her self-titled debut album.
Right. Like a month ago. It's again, more credit to the show. It's just now, I think, the 5th time, right? Like an unknown or up-and-coming act has been on the show this season.
Yeah, a lot this season. Yeah.
Okay, well, the first time I saw her was this episode when I first saw it, and I liked the song "Chucky's in Love." It's on my Spotify playlist. It's the only Rickie Lee Jones song on my Spotify playlist, but I think Chucky Weiss was her manager, and it's a song about him. And I just liked that song. She was dating Tom Waits at the time, and there's a little bit of a beret, just like he wore a beret when he performed on the show 2 years earlier.
I think in the second number 2 kind of has some Tom Waits influences on it. That performance, I remember I researched her after, and watching that second performance, I was like, oh, she kind of is doing like a little bit of Tom Waits stuff here, I feel like. Vocally.
Her record company did not want her to sing that song as the second number.
Oh, really?
Because I don't think it was released as a single. Huh. And they wanted her to do the second single, which was to be the second single, but I don't remember, because of all my albums of Rickie Lee Jones, I don't have a favorite. But she does come on the show 2 more times.
2 more times, yeah. Season 7 and season 15, yeah. Do you know it all, Gary? Her?
What? Do I know her? No.
Because she apparently was a big deal. Like, she won the Grammy for Best New Artist that year and was on the cover of Rolling Stone that summer. And this is, again, like an artist who just showed up on the scene.
And Brad, who did she beat for Best New Artist?
Oh, God, 1980. Who? I don't know. Who is it?
The Blues Brothers.
I forgot they were.
Not just the Blues Brothers.
And
who,
Robin Williams.
And Dire Straits.
Wow.
And The Knack.
Okay.
I could maybe give her The Knack. Wow.
And Robin Williams is a comedy recording artist.
Yeah.
Who,
Do either of you know why there was a burning barrel on that set?
That was going to be my question.
Thank you. Okay, great.
And there were 2, I believe.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, I believe there were 2 barrels
burning
because it was the 1920s and people lived in Hoovervilles and they had to get warm over garbage cans on fire. That's just what happened in the 1920s.
Listen, say what you will about Rickie Lee Jones. Those backup singers were hilarious, were they not? Those 3 dudes who had a choreographed shuffle going on. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then I saw the grand piano that I laughed. I'm like, those silly bastards thought they were going to get another song, and they had the piano out there because I was like, there's no way in hell they're giving her 2 songs. Okay, I don't feel bad then. I'm not the only one who missed this because I thought I was missing something with this performance.
You mean with the fire?
No, with her,
just
with Rickie Lee
overall.
Jones in general. I'm like, what is she's no Judy Collins, but I'm just like, what is this?
Well, that's enough of Rickie Lee Jones for now. Let's move on. Let's move on to a film. A Bird for All Seasons. So, this is Bill to camera talking about the TV lineup for the upcoming season, and it's parrots dressed up as all different characters. So there's one about disco and Studio 54, and there's parrots dancing and wiggling. There's one about baseball where they're dressed up as the Yankees. Then there's the slate of movies they're going to show. It's The Godfather, The Lawrence of Arabia, Deliverance, which was pretty funny and got a good reaction from the crowd. But this is all parrots.
Yes.
How did you guys feel about this parrot film?
It's okay.
Yeah, I came around to it. By the end, I feel like I had your stance on it, Gary, when I started watching. It was like different parrots. Okay. And then as they started dressing them up in all the different outfits, all the movies you mentioned, it like I came around a little bit.
Yeah, I was impressed with that work, like the costume work on the parrots, and then the Lawrence of Arabia one where the parrot has the camel.
Yeah.
And then the Deliverance where they're actually in a boat.
In a boat. Yeah, like it was
very impressive.
I was like, okay.
It's like a sorbet that takes you to the next course.
Yes.
And once again, the crowd ate it up.
The crowd did seem to like this one. Yeah.
I find it humorous, or whatever, that, the reason Lauren tells John they can't put his short film on is that they don't have enough time. And then again, basically now as an FU to John, they throw this thing on. Judy she wrote in one of her books, that seeing this episode and them not putting on his film, but putting this on was kind of the straw where he was like, I'm done. I'm leaving this show. But I'm interested, Gary, in your take of 2 people who over the course of season 4, I realized you don't love that much either one, this John and Lauren battle kind of coming to a head finally.
Yeah. Oh, so which side?
Who are you pulling for now? Yeah, like whose side are you on now of the John versus Lauren?
Well, I think I'm on Lauren's side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, for this one, definitely. I wouldn't have shown that film either.
No, I get it. But it's funny that you say, we don't have time for it. And then of all the short films, it's not a Mr. Bill.
Oh, that's because Lauren is like afraid of conflict. So he just says we don't have time for it.
Yeah.
He's not going to say it's not as funny as the parrots.
Right.
Because that would be something then John would say, F you.
Right.
Whatever. He would say, we don't have time.
Right.
or somebody speaking for Lorne would say, we don't have time.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as Ian said, that little sorbet took us to our next course.
Excedrin PM.
I wish we had kept eating sorbet, to be honest with you. I'd rather more parrots than going to the Scottish restaurant.
Oh, good. Then it wasn't just me. Okay.
Before we start, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think this was Dan Aykroyd writing it or Brian McConaughey or both?
Do you know the answer to this? Is this like a pop quiz?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't.
okay.
I know your opinion.
So this is a Tom Davis sketch that was actually a holdover from the Margot Kidder episode. He wrote it for Margot Kidder. Her and John were the couple that sit at the table. And it was going to be on St. Patrick's Day. There was dialogue in the script about, oh, we're coming to a Scottish restaurant on St. Patrick's Day, and then it kind of goes into how they talk about, well, we do Italian, Chinese, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Not everything's a winner. Tom Davis is a great writer.
Yeah.
But
It's a chance for Dan to have a lot of fun with an accent.
Yes, it is.
I'll give him that.
And if you didn't know, I'm sure you do. The Scotch are thought of as cheap people, and that is why everything
fee or
required a fee. And and the tablecloth was just
that was kind of funny.
Because they're very, very, very thrifty, very thrifty people.
Yeah, if you didn't know that coming into this sketch, you figured that out with every line that Dan said.
Yeah. What's the line about not having menus? I never thought of them. We have a chalkboard or blackboard instead.
Yeah, we have a chalkboard over there. And she's like, it's too dark.
I can't read it. I'll read it to you for 50 cents.
Yeah, so he wanted to charge them for everything. Taking the reservation, giving him a seat, like you said, reading the menu.
I knew what haggis was when I was 12 years old because of the sketch.
Oh, there you go. It seemed like a vehicle for Dan to pull out his Scottish accent.
Mm-hmm.
Bill does a little bit of Scottish. Gilda does a little bit of something. I don't think it was Scottish. And then bagpipes come in.
Right.
Is this the second week in a row we've seen bagpipes? We saw bagpipes.
Oh, that's right. The Chieftains guy was playing it, right? You had to explain to me how to play a bagpipe, right?
Yeah. Did you watch this week when they were playing it? Did it make sense?
A little bit more. It did, actually, yeah. Didn't help me like the sketch that much better. And it's a bummer because, like we said, there's not that many sketches in the episode. So, one bad one is a high percentage of your episode, sadly.
Of sketches.
Of sketches. That's a fair point. Yep. Very good point.
To me, this is why it's an A- show and not an A. No show is perfect, I don't think.
Right.
And
you got to put the musical guest in that to knock it down, though, from an A. Or do you not count the musical performance in your overall?
He likes the music. He likes Chucky's in Love.
I like Chucky's in Love.
Okay.
But if the musical guest I enjoy, it can only make the show better.
Right. But you wouldn't give a bad one, wouldn't knock it down more? Like giving her 2 tunes this episode? Because the sketches are long and they are good. Like you're getting quality writing. Maybe this is an instance of your musical guest only getting 1 song and put more comedy out there.
Yeah, maybe we'd like to see Marvin Goldhart stretch and do something.
That's right.
We haven't had a Larry Farber sketch in weeks.
Well, he hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't done Farber in ages. She's been doing them by herself.
Maybe Marvin could do it.
That'd be funny. I actually, what? It is funny.
Very funny.
It is funny that we never see him do a Belushi the rest of the episode. That would have been a funny gag if he, what you said, a Farber or something. If they would have done some sketch and no one mentions it and he just plays John's role, would have been really funny.
Yeah,
like a quintessential John role would have been good.
I think that would have been a bigger FU.
That would be the ultimate FU. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing. Then another thing that confused me or was just, I thought odd. The next thing we get is a commercial parody. It's Little Chocolate Donuts. Why do you throw a John commercial parody up there?
I do actually know this.
Oh, go ahead.
They said they did this so that fans would remember that John is still on the show.
That's funny because my note was, are they just doing this to get John on the show?
Yes.
Right.
It would have been funny if you had time to redo this commercial with Marvin.
That would have been great. Oh my God. Could you imagine a great John pre-tape with Marvin? Yes. Instead, we get Coolsville.
Yes, we do. Rickie Lee Jones is back.
Not a fan of that song. This is just long and garbled. And
even before this is the one I said kind of felt Tom Waits. I could see the Tom Waits influence.
Yeah.
But even before she started singing, I was genuinely surprised they gave her a second song.
When was the last time the musical guest didn't, though?
Didn't get 2?
I mean, I think they're in that.
Judy Collins, because Ricky Nelson had 4 numbers that night.
Okay, besides that, I think they're in the formula now of a regular musical guest gets 2.
The last one I can remember was it Kinky Friedman? He got 1. Somebody like around that era got 1. It was surprising.
Yeah, Kinky Friedman got 1.
Yeah. But I guess she's like up and coming. You don't know what she's going to become. You're rolling the dice. You have to, I will always give the show credit for rolling the dice on an unknown as a musical guest.
And they may have liked her more than you do, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, 1979, who knows? This was, that Chucky, what is it? The first song was a hit, right? Didn't it end up becoming a hit?
Chucky's in Love was a hit.
I mean, Ian obviously likes it.
Song.
Yeah, I mean, she got like I said, 5 nominations. So obviously she was a big deal in that era.
Right.
And apparently long lasting because, like you said, she was on 2 more times and still making music. Good for her.
That's it. That's our show. Good nights. Nothing of consequence.
Rodney seemed to be having a fun time.
Rodney was having a great time.
Yeah.
Dan had his motorcycle helmet again, like he's ready to just go jump on his bike and take off.
Well, he did take off.
He was Morgan Walling his way out of the studio.
Yeah, he was right. He was out of there in a heartbeat. This is an amazing episode. So long. So long.
An hour and 6 minutes, like every other one.
Sketches. My God. I don't know what you say, Gary. You like it? It's a good one.
Overall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I it's not like my favorite of the season, but I liked it.
It's funny you say that because I feel like, especially for this season, they're on a good streak. But remember, we think back to the first half of season 4, like we were not happy.
Oh yeah,
and they're doing like fun, new, different stuff now. And I don't know. For me, it puts it up even a little bit more of just of a quality episode for this season in general, I think.
And this was their Emmy submission, so this is the one they submitted for an Emmy,
mm-hmm.
and it was nominated for Outstanding Writing.
I mean, that sketch is amazing.
I was going to say, like, the Pepsi syndrome carries that.
Yeah.
Completely. And Gilda and Jane were nominated for supporting actress, and John and Dan for supporting actor for the season. So
it was good. I mean, it was a good episode. It was different, like to your point, Brad. It was different than most other episodes this season. It was interesting not having John there and calling it out.
Well, I was going to say it's an interesting look at what season 5 could have been if Dan would have came back and it was a Dan heavy show with no John. This is what we could have seen.
Yeah, I mean, we see that a lot, though. We see a lot of Dan heavy shows where John is, to your point earlier, is in 1.5 sketches. Like Dan carries again. Yeah, Dan carries this season.
But to see him not in it, not in it. How great is Dan? Oh my God!
I mean, I think Bill carries this season, but
this season,
I think Bill carries this more than Dan. I agree. You don't think so, Garrett? Bill versus Dan?
No, I still think that Dan has. I still think Dan contributes more this season than anyone.
Dan also writes, which Bill does not do as much.
Right.
Yeah, but this season he wasn't writing nearly as much because he was writing Blues Brothers so much, and he was shooting 1941, so he was gone a little bit here and there, and then he was spending a lot of time writing the movie because they'd shoot the movie in the summer.
400 pages, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Brad, there was a lot of stuff cut from this show, from the Davis archives. Is that where you got this?
They had another sketch called Hard to Work with Comedy Writer, another Franken and Davis, another very long sketch. I think it was like 14 pages, which was done as like a TV show with Don Pardo, doing the announcing, like, this week on Hard to Work with a Comedy Writer, this week's episode, Three's Company. And they had, they were on the set of Three's Company with Gilda as Suzanne Summers and Jane as Joyce DeWitt. And they originally had Richard Benjamin as John Ritter, and then they changed it to a draft, and they had basically Bill playing a director and Richard playing the writer. And it was like a writer who was just complaining that the actors weren't saying his lines funny enough. And Dan ended up playing John Ritter. That was one. They had a Newlywed Game and something called The Kaplan Affair that both made it to rehearsal that didn't get on the air. And they also had an E. Buzz Miller sketch that Tom and Dan wrote called E. Buzz Miller Hobby World. And so the whole sketch, it's a pretty funny sketch. There's tons of sexual innuendo on it where E. Buzz is building a small box for a pet, like a pet home. And the whole thing, it's a lot of jokes about nailing and screwing and, jokes to Christina. And that's pretty much the running gag of that sketch. And I think there were even like one or two more that didn't make it.
Interesting.
And they never do Buzz Miller.
No, we saw the last one already. So it was interesting. They did try to get him back on.
Well, Ian, this is one of your favorite episodes of all time. What are your best bits?
Honestly, I love the cold opening. If it's just the best bits, it's the amazing colossal president and the nerds and Chico Escuela. Those three.
All right. Brad, what are your best bits?
Nerds and Pepsi Syndrome or Colossal President. I had those two.
Yeah, I had the same. I was just really impressed that they have a 17-minute sketch that holds up for the whole 17 minutes, really.
Oh, yeah.
It was interesting. I mean, it's another episode where I'm interested what it was like to be in the audience in 8H that week, because there's so much that you're watching on screen that's not taking place live.
Yeah, especially the Pepsi Syndrome. You're right. With all the blue screen stuff happening and jumping from set to set. That'd be interesting.
Even the light effect over Dan when he comes out and he's full of radiation.
Radioactive.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fun. This was a fun episode. It was.
Thank you guys for letting me fulfill my dream.
Oh, thank you for coming back and doing it.
Ian, that's what we do here. We make dreams come true. Ian, tell everybody about Ian Talks Comedy and who you have coming up.
Well, coming up, I taped an interview with Chris Kelly. He's been him and as well as two other people have been Bill Maher's sketch and monologue writers since Politically Incorrect in 1993. He told me all about the stuff that happened, certain famous episodes of Bill Maher, as well as his year at Letterman. And he had some really good stories from that. And I'm supposed to talk to Doug Abellis, who was for 10 years a writer on Weekend Update during the Seth and Tina and Amy era. And might be having Marvin Goldhart. No, I'm kidding. He's dead.
Marvin Goldhart passed away in 2002.
Yes. Might be having some other people, Lydia Cornell from Too Close for Comfort. And I'm doing a sketch, a 30-minute parody of The Tonight Show in Hell. Johnny's dead, and he went to hell, because if you ever read a biography about him, I'm sure he's there. And he hosts it, and he gets walk-ons from some very famous people. Doc Severinsen is still alive, so Phil Spector takes over the Tonight Show Orchestra, and with Brian Jones on guitar. So it's a wacky, wild show, and I play everybody.
Wow, that's fun. I can't wait to listen to that. Thank you for joining us again. And Ian will be on a future episode of Tournament Talk, Bill Swirsky's Tournament Talk, coming up.
Yeah, good to have you back. Thanks for coming back with us.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah. Next week on the early years of SNL, we're talking about season 4, episode 17, with host Milton Berle. Oof.
That must be a great one.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. With musical guest Ornette Coleman. That'll be interesting all around. Until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
And have a pleasant tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please take a moment to rate and review the project wherever you find us. You can also drop us a line to let us know what you liked or didn't and what else you might like to hear in the future at nr4ptproject@gmail.com. And lastly, you can find us on social media everywhere at nr4ptproject. Thanks again for listening. Have a pleasant tomorrow.
Wait, is Lovitz in that? I forgot Lovitz was in that.
Yes, he plays his brother.
Come on, man.
I forgot that.
Call yourself a Lovitz fan.